All right, my name is Franklin Cruz, and you're listening to our first podcast on real estate geniuses. On this podcast, I'm actually going to be breaking down a very interesting deal how I took one house, converted over to 41 houses to create a subdivision, and then later on sold it to a national home builder for $1.25 million. So it's probably going to be several parts of this transaction in this case study, but I'm going to go over as much as I can and as much detail as I can that whoever is listening to this, that you're empowered that whenever you look at a piece of land or you look at anything in your area that you're like, all right, this is possible to actually do something here. So my goal is whoever's listening again, that you will know that it's possible. All right. So let's go right into it. And we're actually doing twofold. So this is a video and an audio that you're going to be hearing as well. So I'm going to do my best to make sure the videos or the audio is right on point. So kind of sharing the story, and if you're looking at the video aspect of it, is I actually found a property, or it was actually referred to me, property at 130 East Carter Road. Now, if you know nice areas, this property was an extremely nice area. This was right in the south side of Lakeland, Florida, which we're smack dab in between Tampa and Orlando. If you don't know where those are, you do know where Disney World is, and you do know where Busch Gardens is. So we're right in the middle of Disney and Busch Gardens, right? We're 30 minutes between both of them. And so this lovely lady gave me a call and she said, I heard that you're buying a lot of properties in the area. Can you please tell me a little bit, can you check out my property and tell me if this is worth it? So I said, all right, I'll go check it out. We'll see what's possible. So I went and saw the property, and then I'm going to kind of, in the video, you kind of see the before and after. It started off with a blank piece of land, and then some cool things happened. So what I will do is I'm going to show you, here we go. I'm going to do a little roadmap here. So I talked to the lady, and when I saw the property, what the most interesting thing about the property that I saw was, number one, it was a huge plot of land. It was about 9 acres. I had no idea at the time what development was. I had no idea what's even possible with development. So when I saw this, I'm thinking in my head that potentially I could purchase the property, purchase the house, and possibly fix up the house and just flip it for a profit and then move on. But the land was such in a great area. I really was contemplating, man, there's got to be more to this. And so what happened was there was a lot more to this. So long story short, I actually got the property under contract under creative terms, and I got it for $650,000. And at the time I had no money, right? So I was actually going through a separation. It was a very stressful time frame for me. You see, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. You got to move on, right? And so the way I structured it, because I had no idea what I was doing dealing with land, I just knew that the property was worth something. I knew there was value there. And I've been doing real estate long enough to understand, like, look, as long as two people sign and agree, anything is possible. But you've got to be able to sign and agree. So the way that I had the terms was pretty simple. It was like $650,000. And I told her, I said, look, this is what you want, but if you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. What I'll do is let's come up with some creative terms. So it's going to give me time to get certain studies done, or, just to figure out what's possible with the land. And I knew it may take over a year for that. Land is very different and complicated, just because you've got to verify that you could actually build on something before you get started. If you don't know you can actually build on this, then you have no clue what's possible. But first, you've got to figure out, okay, well, what do I got? And is it buildable? And then would the city allow my idea on this site? Yes or no? You don't know yet. So the way I structured it was, I structured it on a 2-page contract. So I believe in short and simple contracts, just like get straight to the point, right? And so the way I structured it was $1,000 deposit. First payment every 6 months, I'll be making a payment to her, right? $29,000 next payment, 25,000 after that, 50,000 after that, 50,000 after that again, and then another 6 months after that. And then after 2.5 years, the balance would be due. Now, mind me, at the time, I had no idea how I would get the money either. I just knew if I could structure a deal that made sense, I'll figure it out. And normally, when it comes to real estate, that's typically how you want to look at it. As long as you know you have a deal, you'll be able to get the money. That's not the problem. But first, you got to figure out, do I even have a deal? And then, do I have somebody to sell this deal? It's called disposition, selling it. So can I sell the property, and then do I have a deal? Right? So now I knew if I could get it locked up, I may have a deal. So now I'm going from, all right, I think we've got something, to now I've got it under contract. What do I do next? So what I did was I actually called somebody, the only person I actually knew that knew anything about development. And his name was, I called him Uncle Donnie. So at the same time this is happening, I'm going through a separation. All right. So I was married for 15 years, and out of nowhere, my wife says, "Hey, I want a separation." So it's funny because then literally the same week is when I got this deal. Right. So long story short, I call Uncle Donnie and I said, "Look, I'm looking at this deal, and I'm not 100% sure what's possible on this transaction, but I feel like this is a deal. I feel like there's something there, and I'm not 100% sure, but I know there's something there. What do you think?" And he's like, "Well, I think you're right. There is something there." And I said, "All right, so what is it?" He's like, um, "Well, first we need to meet." So I was like, "All right, let's meet. I got a deal. I don't know what to do. Can you help me?" He's like, "Look, if you can get me 2 slices of pizza from Marco's and a Coke, we'll talk." And I was like, "Done. Well, let's go to Marco's. I'll get you 3 slices of pizza, whatever." And then he started saying terms that I had no idea what the hell he was saying. So then he started saying, "All right, we're at the pizza joint," and then he's like, "All right, Franklin, this is what you got to do. You potentially have a deal, but you got to get a civil engineer, a geotech, a topoboundary tree survey. You got to get an ESA1, ESA2 report. You've got to get everything situated, and then you potentially could possibly move forward when the maximal buildable." He was talking, so I was like, in my head, I'm like, he's talking a different language. Like, I don't even understand the language he's saying. To me, it's like, I know he was talking English, but it was like it was different words. So I was like, "Slow down. I don't even know what you're talking about. I'm going through separation, and I don't even, civil, like, is that an attorney?" I'm thinking like civil lawyer, like civil court. He's like, "No, it's not an attorney." But it just felt awkward because I had no idea what he was talking about. He said, "Look, we got to have houses here." And I was like, "What?" And I was like, 25 houses. So they had a concept. And at the time, Remember, now I've got to figure out, like, I gotta sell this, or I gotta build, but I gotta bring on somebody who's involved. But then I got to figure out what's the pricing of that. Like, how much could I sell it for? What does it look like? I'm not 100% sure. That's exactly what we did. Now, what we did is we said, look, can we squeeze down the lots and make them like 50 by 100 lots, just a smaller lot? And how many can we fit? Now, remind me, this is an amazing location. So this is going to be, this is going to be a amazing, it's amazing subdivision. It could be amazing subdivision. A lot of the stuff to me is brand spanking new. I've never even heard of so many different terminologies, and I'm going through a separation. It's going to be better for a national builder because they already have blueprints that meet that range. Then you want to go say, okay, well, what else can we do? Like me understanding an LOI. Now at 41 houses, we had a ton of people sending us LOIs, and then we got what I call a PSA. PSA stands for purchase sales agreement. In that purchase sales agreement, that was from a national home builder, KB, for $1.2 million, $1.25 million. Now, mind me, this PSA as well, at first it wasn't 1.2. At first, it was actually over $2 million. But then that's when I learned at the same time too, the legal aspect of it. So if you dig into the contract, there were little details within the contract that I didn't know about, but I had to read and kind of like print every single page out, get a red marker, really start understanding the terminology, sit down with my attorney that we spent almost $10,000 just reading this contract because it was so long. But there was a lot of gotchas. That's one thing. You can write that down. A lesson is whenever you're reading an agreement, you want to look for the gotchas. What's the gotchas? My ex-partner used to tell me that all the time. He's like, figure out what's the gotchas, because that's the one that's going to get you. So what is it for them? And so in that renegotiation, I actually had to meet with the acquisition manager from KB Homes and sit down, and we had a great discussion, and we just came up to a meeting of the minds of what worked. Kind of like, for me, it just reminded me of how I buy houses. So how I buy houses was like, look, it's got to be a win-win scenario, but also this got to be net to us, meaning I need to know what I'm walking away. After we had the approval, we closed. And that was surreal. That was surreal just because it was like, oh my goodness, they went with my design. Like I actually designed the subdivision, and I was like, oh my God, this is like really when you think about it, it's like sit back for the rest of my life and my kids' life and whoever's listening to this, like that subdivision. What was even cooler was Months later, I go to the property and I start seeing that they're getting all the dirt ready. It's called horizontal and vertical. So horizontal work means they're doing all the horizontal work, all the groundwork, getting all the utilities and streets and lights and everything situated. And then they go vertical, right? Vertical is the build, right? And so